Hi guys, so this is your second lesson. For the girls, you have a double period on a Sunday, on a Tuesday, and on a Thursday. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of following the lessons, but that's okay. So what you will do is on your second lesson on a Sunday, this is what you will follow, and you will continue to do this on your first lesson on a Tuesday. Okay? So that will be the two lessons covered. So lesson two is a double lesson, okay? It's based on a double lesson. So you should be spending the two lessons functioning and working on this PowerPoint and the notes, etc., and activities. So what we're going to be looking at today is going to be looking at narrative writing, but in terms of poetry. So our essential question is, do poems or songs tell a story? Our learning objective is to identify literary techniques in a poem, and then we're going to be engaging in the writing process, okay? It says stage one, but we're going to try and see if we can look at stage two too. I'm going to read out this poem for you, and what I want you to do is think about, number one, what title would I give this poem if I was writing it? And number two, what literary techniques can I see on my first reading of this poem? My son, aged 3, fell in the nettle bed. Bed seemed a curious name for those green spears. That regiment of spite behind the shed. It was no place for rest. With sobs and tears, the boy came seeking comfort, and I saw white blisters beaded on his tender skin. We soothed him until his pain was not so raw. At last he offered us a watery grin. And then I took my billhook, honed the blade, and went outside and slashed in fury with it, till not a nettle in that fierce parade stood upright any more. And then I lit a funeral pyre to burn the fallen dead. But in 2 weeks the busy sun and rain had called up tall recruits behind the shed. My son would often feel sharp wounds again. So think about it. What title would you give this poem if you were writing it? Or what literary techniques did you recognize? So here I just need you to go through these notes, go through them in your own time. You're just looking at what is poetry and why it's not considered as prose or a story. Okay? Next, you have the actual title of the poem. It's called Nettles by Vernon Scannell. And you continue with task one. You need to watch this video on YouTube and you need to make notes in your interactive notebook, just as noted here. Furthermore, once you're finished with the notes in your interactive notebook and you watch the video, there's just a little bit more information there about the characteristics of poetry. Once you're finished with all of that, you get to task two. And this is where you will spend most of your time during the lessons today. So having read and analyzed this poem, it's now your turn to start writing. You must write a short narrative based on the poem Nettles. Again, guys, if you're not sure what nettles are, please Google it and make note of it in your vocab section. You can use different perspectives or different point of views in your narrative piece of writing. You can be the nettles, you can be the child, the father, or you can be somebody else on the outside looking in using the third person point of view. This should be the third piece of writing in your narrative writing portfolio. At this stage, you should have your writing piece about the potato, my favorite restaurant, and now you're going to be putting in this short story about the poem Nettles. This is your writing process. Again, it's just a summary of it. You should be looking at finishing stage one and stage two today. Make a short plan and then start writing your first draft. Later in the week, we'll get to these phases, okay?